Alright, let's talk about backgrounds. Whether you go with a real background or a virtual background, it's worth spending a bit of time thinking about it because, like it or not, clients and colleagues are collecting information not only on what you're saying during a meeting, but also on what they see. We're going to start out talking about real backgrounds. If you can make a real background work in your space, we think this is the best way to go. Done well, it's more interesting, unique, and more natural. Rather than thinking about a real background as an obstacle and a challenge to overcome, you can see it as an asset and a way to let someone know a little more about you without having to shoehorn it into a conversation. It can do a lot of good work for you. So what makes a real background effective? Ask yourself this question: what do you want people to know about you? Maybe you're a sports fan. You've got season tickets to the Bears. Maybe you're a Packers fan, in which case kindly leave. Perhaps you want to come across a little more intellectual. Maybe you want to have some books back there. Or perhaps you want to come across a little more personal with a few family photos. Or perhaps all of the above. But here's the key. Like anything in life, you want balance. You don't want to have some life-sized cardboard cutout of Anthony Rizzo behind you. You don't want anything to distract from what everyone should be engaging with, which is you. You want to keep it simple, elegant, clean, and avoid visual noise. Here are another couple of things to consider if it's possible for you in your space. First, depth is your friend. If you can separate yourself from your background, it helps to compose a shot that's a little easier on the eye. For example, a lot of people in the past year have taken to placing themselves in front of a bookcase, and that's a good idea. It conveys a seriousness and an intellectualism, but think about what we just said about visual noise. If you're too close to that bookcase, it could be distracting. We like to know you're well read. We don't have to know the name of every book on your bookshelf. The second thing we want to talk about is contrast, and this is pertinent to virtual backgrounds as well, perhaps even more so. As we mentioned, you want to stand out from your background. Depth will help with this, but it's also important to think about color. Color in the background, color in what you're wearing, the color of your hair. All of these things matter. It's easy to forget about this, but if you've got a big meeting and it's important for you to stand out and command the room, these are things really worth considering. Contrast yourself with your background. If you've got a light background, wear something a bit darker, and vice versa.
Okay, so I have just started the Zoom call, and well, this is a very unflattering angle, and I look a little bit like I'm in jail, so I'm going to get my laptop stand out and try to raise it to eye level. Okay, let's scoot up a little bit. So I have the nice medium shot with a little bit of room. Yeah, that looks much better in my opinion. Okay, so as far as, camera, I think that's pretty solid. I can tell that it's not too dark here, but I can tell that there's not enough light so that, that the camera is not working to its full potential. It just has a little bit of a grainy quality. So I have a window here, and I don't want to open that all the way because I know that it'll flood light on one side of my face. So I am going to try to get out my ring light. Okay, so I think I have that pretty well set up. It's flooding light evenly onto my face. It's right behind my camera. I've gone with a daylight temperature so it can feel just like sunlight. I think this is pretty nice. So what that has revealed is that I have a lot of brick wall, and I think the brick wall actually works. It feels quite industrial. What do I have to work with here? Okay, I've got actually those flowers in the book could really work. It's kind of a background set dressing type of thing. And there's a lot of wall here, but we'll deal with that later. So what I'm going to do first is see if this. Right, so tells a little bit better of a story. We've got the books there, we've got the flowers. That feels quite full, and now I am very aware of how kind of empty this brick wall is. Not that that's terrible, but I think we could do a little bit better. So I run a production company. I have a lot of equipment around. Yeah, I'm going to steal a camera and maybe a couple of light stands to fill in some of this blank space. Okay, here I am. All right, so I've got a little, I'm gonna move the camera just a little bit this way. I like this. This is nice. The one thing that has distracted me is it does look a little bit like the camera, the arm on the tripod is going into my shoulder. So I'm just going to adjust that real quick and do some final touch-ups. Okay, so here I am. I think this is okay. You know, I definitely feel I'm at the forefront of the shot. I've got some books here. I've got some nice greenery. We filled in a little bit of this kind of blank space with the industrial wall. It has some camera and some equipment, a little bit about what I do professionally. Yeah, I like this. I feel like this is a pretty well-balanced, simple, nice shot, and I think we're good to go.
Moving on to virtual backgrounds. While we prefer a real background, it's not that a virtual background can't work. They can actually look really good, and for some people, it's their only option. A lot of the same principles apply here in the same way they apply to a real background. You want to think about what the background conveys. An overly visually noisy background will be distracting, and again, you want to consider contrast. Okay, so let's have a look at virtual backgrounds and how you insert them into your image. So let's go down here to the bottom left, see this little stop video button. You click on the arrow beside it, click on video. There's shortcuts here. You can actually just go straight to choose virtual background or choose video filter, but I'm going to show you the long way around. You click on video settings, scroll down to background and filters right here, and here is where your options start. So none. I have no virtual background right now. You can also select blur. So this just blurs everything that's behind you. If you don't want to go with a virtual background and you want to sort of give a hint to where you are, you can just blur the background. And then to insert something else, here's the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. You just click on that, easy as you like. And so if you want to add your own virtual background, you just go to this little plus sign up here. You click on that. You can add image or you can add a video. We're going to add an image. We're going to search. I already downloaded one that was a bookcase. So there we have it. Click on that, open. That now gives me that as a selection. Cross off up here. And there you have it. I'm in front of this bookcase. Visual backgrounds can tell a really lovely story. Just recently, I had a Zoom meeting with a client whose background was a farm in Vermont that had been in his family for 4 generations. We got to talking about it and we made a personal connection over it. I talked about how it reminded me of some of the landscapes back home in Scotland, and that ended up being a really warm and fruitful start to our meeting. But when we got the meeting underway, and because of the way his camera was positioned, the light he had set up making him brighter than the background, and the contrast of him against the background itself wasn't distracting. So find a virtual background that's aesthetically pleasing, says something about you that you want to convey, and isn't too distracting. Now, even though you're using a virtual background, that doesn't mean your actual background isn't still important. If there isn't enough contrast between you and the background, Zoom can sometimes have a hard time knowing what should be displayed as background or not. So make sure if everything fails and your virtual background for some reason doesn't work, that the real background of the location isn't embarrassing or something that you really don't want people to see. The best way to prevent this, and the best way to get a virtual background working, is to use a green screen. You can pick these up very affordably online, and as long as you're contrasted with that background and you're lit evenly, it will do a good job of inserting your virtual background.